Morning all. So my name is Praveen. I'm from Wipro, Switzerland. And first I should excuse you, I'm between you and the lunch. So I'll try my best to keep engaged. So I started my career in India, 6 years in India, 11 years out of United Kingdom, working in London, multiple companies. And the last 3 years, I'm living in Switzerland with my family, supporting the second largest Swiss bank, which is Credit Suisse, with their agile DevSecOps transformation, new ways of working. We have been successful so far. Obviously, the bank is in a challenging time. And I speak in conferences. I started my journey in 2017, working with Agile Testing Days in Asia. And I've spoken in lots of software testing conferences, but Nordic DevOps Days is my first DevOps-centric conference. So thanks a lot for the organizers. And I also write in papers, the most recent published by Quality Matters from Southeast European Testing Board. So it's there in the net, you can have a look. And kind enough, they posted me to my home address, which was a nice gesture. Okay, that's short about me, and I'm going to talk about why security in DevSecOps is #1 challenge. So how many security engineers? Because the topic was DevOps, but I think lots of DevSecOps security topics. Okay. So I'm going to talk about why security is the #1 challenge for the DevSecOps. Okay, and if you look at enterprises globally, the way they have been differentiated is the kind of experience that the organization is providing to its customers, the intuitive, seamless experience. Next is the transformation, the business transformation model that they have incorporated, and also the velocity, the speed with which they are able to address the client needs. So what started as a web-based earlier, now it's mobile. Everything is mobile, so security plays a huge part in it. And what was earlier a digital transformation has moved into more digital business, and we are talking at scale. And whatever happens in the industry due to the social media gets exposed immediately. Either it is larger enterprises or the small organization, everything is available in the media. Okay, so how many developers are here today? Developers, testers. Do you agree with that line, the first one? Developers of today just don't code, right? Do you agree? And similarly, testers of today just don't test. The ask from them is increasing day by day. And the developers and testers are expected to work closely with your client, product owners, business analysts, to get the client insights. They take part in solution design. Of course, development, developers do the unit testing, then comes testers, they're expected to automate the test-driven development, behavior-driven development, then obviously the developers are also expected to take part in the release management process. In my team, my developers also own the DevOps, the tools, they do the builds, they release into production, so we do have a centralized team which sets the platforms management, but it is decentralized at the value stream levels or the squad or the pods we call. So they have that kind of freedom. And then comes monitoring. Once it is being deployed in the production, how you do the shift right of testing, and shift left. So developers of today and testers, they're expected to do more. And we are moving away from towards more of a developer experience. Or developer experience, or DevX that you have heard, is catching up big time. And there are boutique organizations which are consulting in this DevX area. And there is lots of interest as well across the larger organization, not just startups. Whatever startups we were expecting, now the larger industries, the manufacturing sectors, the more closed banks, financial institutions like mine or the UBS or the ANZs of the world, they all are moving towards more of a DevOps and the kind of experience they want to give. Because at the end of the day, it's the same users of this social media like Facebook or Google are also using the bank's services. So the expectations are to match with that. So if you look at the mobile applications, the number of apps available in the leading stores, you can see there, so many there if you look at millions, and the number of downloads that you're looking at is like in billions. So that shows how much the security is more important when it comes to the mobile-based applications. The enormity of the challenge is going to be also high. Then I've looked at some of the security surveys which has happened. So I'm going to talk some of the practices or the principles, and I'll try my best to relate it to some of the surveys which have been done. So this is available in the industry done on the internet as well. And we have also done some DevX reviews or surveys internally to take the pulse of the different SDLC process happening. So what are the leading drivers for the DevSecOps? Either it is the first one that you see there is cybersecurity to keep pace with fast-moving development teams. People are moving away from waterfall or the traditional development model into more of an agile-based or DevOps delivery model. And then you have applications moving to cloud. So people do have apprehensions, how secure is my data in cloud, especially organizations like banks are also moving towards public cloud or they have private cloud. So that becomes one of the drivers. So why does security keeps getting harder? Because the threat landscape is changing, and it's also tough to find the security specialist, right? So if the organization, I heard somebody saying 3 or 4 database persons, but look at security is also going to be challenging. You're not going to have as many security personnel as your developers or your testers. So that's another challenge, finding the right skill set available. And moving the workloads into the public cloud has made it more difficult to look at the attacks or monitor the attacks. So looking at the timelines for the Agile DevOps, you all know that Agile journey started in 2001. Agile was born, and through this you have seen the adoption. So more of a digital transformation happening till 2016 or 17. DevOps got up in 2008, and then organizations moved into more of a digital business. And you're looking at number of downloads happening. So that puts lots of stress on the way the SDLC cycle it's being followed by the various organizations. From a release timeline perspective, you can see waterfalls, way of working. Earlier, it used to be even mainframe of today. We have 4 or 5 release cycles in a year. Especially the banks still follow mainframes. And with Agile, you have 12 to 24 releases per year happening, and DevOps close to 100 plus releases per year. And in my project itself, we have monthly releases. It's a large front-to-back application called Lombard for 10 million plus loans given to high-net individuals. And it is being used across the regions. In Switzerland, it's very data cautious. People use it across Asia Pacific and Luxembourg. We want to take it to Brazil. So security is very important because not everybody can access the kind of data that's there. For each people will have to have different security roles. We have Aura permissions given. So our applications will also have to cater to that. And we do monthly production releases, so multiple releases per day into the test environments. So the performance, security, functional, everything has to work together to have a successful release. We have been successful so far this year with multiple. It's 10 million plus kind of project. So DevOps, yes, has come as a storm. Some projects, some organizations which had started this journey much earlier, yes, they are facing it more easily. But some organizations which have not used, they are being forced to move towards DevOps ways of working or DevOps culture. Either it's manufacturing, especially the banking. The retail industry, yes, they did catch up earlier, but the other traditional ones are trying to catch up. Either it's due to the competition or the expectations from their clients are also driving them to move towards DevOps. So what is DevOps? I'm not taking definition. Everybody has different definition, working of Dev and Ops together. But more important is the right side that you see there is, we call it 3 ways in DevOps. You might know that the system thinking, have the big picture, things move from left to right, from Dev to Ops, amplifying the feedback loop. So you have smaller sprints and releases, and Dev and Ops have to give their feedback much faster. And third and most important is culture of continual experimentation and learning. That's why we are here. So I'm really impressed. That's one of the drivers which makes me attend these conferences, is share my learnings, get the learnings from the different speakers, and also to network. That only keeps us driving. So if you look at one of the other survey by Sonatype, they say that the maturity varies. 49% said they are still immature in their DevOps practices, 36% are improving, 15% they say they're mature. But again, the definition of their maturity varies from organization. There is no one size fits all. So every organization is different. The client's needs are different. What I need to deliver in a month may not be the case for others. They are still okay to do it in a quarterly kind of a release. So it depends on that. So then DevSecOps was born. Why? Because the shorter time to market, every year from the organizations put the older security practices, right? So they were slowing down. Gone are the days where you have those security patches or security as the separate after the development cycle. So that has gone because the timelines are very shorter. So we go into production every month. So security, performance, all have to be embedded into the actual SDLC itself. So that's one of the reasons why DevSecOps was born. The goal was to unite the security teams and developers so that you have a fast, safe, and safe delivery of code. So if you look at the development frequencies, again in that Sonatype survey, they said they do that with every change. They deploy into production. Some say that they do it weekly or maybe monthly. We do it monthly. We are comfortable with that because that business, again, has to decide whether they want it. So we are ready to do it even twice a week into production, but monthly is what we are currently doing it. So what drives? First is motivation. There's a saying, action isn't just the effect of motivation, it's also the cost for it. So what are the main drivers for implementing security controls? 16%. It's again executive, non-executive, different kind of people who have given their inputs. Either it is customer requirements, risk management. For banks, it is mostly the compliance requirements which have to meet. But I'm more interested that it should be from everybody's interest that security is given the utmost importance. Performance is given utmost importance. It should not be that just because there is a compliance need, I start focusing on the security, right? And similarly, developers know security is important, but they just don't have time to spend on it. Because either it is we have separate security specialists available who say that it's our domain, we are doing it, but developers per se say that no, they don't have enough time to focus on the security or the performance side of it because it's not my job to do it. So that's kind of an insights we got. And what we need to do is bridging the gap between DevOps and security. We need to work together, and first and foremost is cross-functional teams. Yes, security is a very niche area, and with the kind of scale that we're looking at, it's going to be challenging to find specialists in all these pods or all the value streams that we're working on. So we need to bridge the experience with cross-functional teams. Cross-functional teams, yes, we do have full-stack developers. We have SDETs, we call software development engineers and testers in testing. And sometimes we have security or DevOps person in the team, or if not, over a period of time, we want to make the developer itself do the deployment. The developer himself starts looking at the performance aspect as well. We do have platform teams which does at a standardization at an organizational level, but there is more federation at a local level so that the teams have more flexibility to bring their own practices. Next is collaboration. Collaboration is very important. We call it at killing silos. So siloed security engineering teams will not scale. So with the rapid iterative pace that's happening, so teamwork is very important. So collaboration between developers, testers, security engineers, performance engineers is the key. And more important is a mindset. So we call it a secure design as a mindset and ways of working. So we need to have the security embedded into your SDLC cycles, into the code that you are developing. And the mindset is like the first point that you see there is spotting problems that are often hidden in plain sight. That comes from experience. Testers can have a very important role in this particular aspect so that you don't brush things under the carpet, make it very transparent, and identify any bias that might play into your security testing. And security is not going to disappear, right? So it's going to be a challenge for each of us, and bring it to the table. So we do have steering committee meetings. So we bring in security challenges upfront. We bring performance challenges upfront. So everybody knows it's not just the functional aspect of the product or the application that needs to be looked at, because obviously the business will look at that as priority. For them, it's the functionality that will be needed for the front office or for the banks to use. But for us, we need to bring these security aspects and performance aspect also in the table so that you have good budget available, you have stories or epics created to address these non-functional aspects and deploy them through your SDLC. Next is shift left, obvious move security to the left. That, as I told you, bring it to the steering committees when your releases are being defined, your MVPs or minimum viable product is being defined. Bring those security aspects much earlier, because it's much easier to solve those as early rather than going into production and trying to fix it. Automate as much as possible, not everything, as much as possible. Then have the DevOps pipelines created with your security and performance tools. I'll just show you in a moment. And as you can see, there is again kind of a survey which is done. Mature DevOps teams integrate automated security tools almost 2 times often than an immature development team. And if you look at the right side security tools used in the survey, various tools, I'll just show you in the subsequent slides where exactly we have to use that, or where we have used it and found it helpful. And insights and faster feedback. So this is very important. You must have the single pane of glass, those kind of insights that you're able to get from our applications. My previous speaker talked about it. And even in Wipro, we have something called Wipro Digital. It's available in the internet. You can look at it. It's a kind of a platform which integrates all the DevOps tools which is available, your pipelines, creations. It gets all the insights, gives it to your engineering managers, so they know how your releases are happening, what are the matrices available, so that the feedback is more important. The earlier you get the feedback, and the team can make necessary changes. And improve developer experience. So as you can see, developers who receive training on how to code securely are 5 times more likely to enjoy their work. So happy developer experience, less friction with colleagues. So training is very important, because I've seen that not much effort is being spent or time is given for training, because you're already under pressure for your deliveries. But we are pushing that with the leadership, that enough funds as well as enough time is given for training. A continuous learning experience or a journey has to be provided for your developers and testers. Okay. And how do you make this real? Now, till now we have seen that these are the principles that are needed to help you move towards the right direction. But next is, how do you make this a reality? 4 pillars of DevSecOps which we have tried finding. First is ending your culture clash. So you need to appoint a social leader, an evangelist. So I liked your title when we spoke yesterday. Now we have in our organization Agile evangelists, DevOps evangelists, performance evangelists. So they speak not just within the team, they speak with the people who matter in the organization, the directors, the CIOs. So that kind of push, a social leader is needed who can take the benefits of it. Else the developers are not going to take it. It's going to be tough. The kind of interactions the evangelist is going to have, right? And make security everyone's priority. It's not just developer, it's not just testers. It's everybody's responsibility. Your project managers' timelines is more important. But they should also understand that security is important, performance is important, because redoing the work is the toughest thing. You deliver something and then your business users complain that no, it's not responding. Then you'll have to go back to your drawing board. It's wasted effort, wasted money, right? So we should look at that. Second is training, as I told. Train your people. Many DevOps engineers are not even aware of the change management principles in an organization, how the releases are happening. They need to be trained across change management, capabilities, the roles that's expected. Give them the system thinking, the big picture of what your organization is going to achieve. Next is automation. Automation reduces feedback loops, but just enough automation. Not everything can be automated. Similarly, your unit testing or your code coverage, what is realistic for your project is what the freedom has to be given. That's the kind of freedom I have tried pushing for my teams or the teams that I'm coaching them. So they decide. It's not the organization which decides that I need 80%, I need 90% coverage. No, it's the team which decides that, okay, 70%, 75%, whatever percentage is good for them, and they do that. And similarly, integrating with your DevOps pipeline and getting insights out of it is very important. Automated regression test captures and gives you the insights, whether it's pass or fail. Daily runs happen. We have sanity test automated 100%. And overnight, every day, regression test happens. In the morning, you get the results out of it. And next comes more important is the requirement. Requirements is like baking your security aspects into your requirement stage itself, which I'll be covering next here, and then I'll, yeah. So that's more important. So you need to have the stories created, or if you're practicing agile ways of working, so you know the structures of your features, epics, stories. So you need to ensure that the security aspect is also added, like how you add your performance aspects as constraints in your stories. We need to have those kind of bad stories as well created. And next important is the DevSecOps framework. It just not focus only on security testing, etc. It's a complete picture. Your organization needs to be flexible enough, moving away from a project-centric mindset into more of a product-centric, so that you have long-lasting teams, so that your teams are not being shuffled as a project and project 3 months, 6 months it ends, but your product is long-lasting. So we are focusing more on a product-centric approach. Your process or automated ways of working, mindset, then continuous integration, and then comes your continuous security. So you have no manual interventions, is all automated in your SDLC process, continuous deployment. So when you look at a DevSecOps framework, this is what we take to the client, saying that no, you don't focus this on pockets. It has to be a holistic kind of a transformation that is needed for you in the long run. And your modern AppSec framework should look at your design part of it. So you have privacy by design, you have threat assessments done, secure by design from your architecture stage itself. Second is identifying phase, where you have secure code reviews being done, environment penetration testing, the different types of testing, SAST, DAST, IST, which I'll show in the next few slides. And the governance needs to be in place. Your framework should take care of the governance. Minimum security standards defined for your organization, threat intelligence, policy automation, metrics that you're able to capture and showcase. Then comes your remediation. If there is any vulnerability, how you address those. Forensics, waiver management. So if there is something can be waived for various reasons, yes, that needs to be properly documented and communicated to everyone. Then comes your prevention, which is threat modeling, fault injection, security training for your people, and AppSec maturity model. So your frameworks that you are coming up in your organization need to address all these aspects. And you all know, if you are already in the DevOps thing, your ecosystem is going to be across your requirements, from your product backlog management to how your source code check-in happens. And more important here you see is the security assessments. It needs to be continuous security as an option there, continuous inspection, and then through your production. Once you go into production as well, you need to have some kind of testing in place. Dwelling a little deeper, I told about your requirements. So the evil stories, that's more important. So you need to, while your product owners are going to create stories from a functional aspect, please ensure that you talk with them, have those evil stories created, so that your application themselves will be able to identify when the stories are being developed, those security aspects are also imbibed into your actual stories. That's what we call it as, evil stories. We do have performance stories created, and we are moving away from those individual stories. Like in the functional stories itself, in the acceptance criteria, we try to put those reasons, like how the response should be. We call it as constraints. So your functional stories itself over a period of time should be able to take care of this performance, security on those aspects. And obviously your code reviews happen, and every 2 weeks, a sprint, you should be able to bring it. May not happen today. It took a long time for us. It's like a year journey. It was not smooth because it involves people, processes, established processes. So it took time for us to move towards the right. Okay, choosing the right tools. As you see here, there are lots of testing available: static app security testing, static code analysis. IBM AppScan Veracode state analysis does it. Then you have dynamic app security testing. When the app is automatically tested, when the app is still running in an operational, then you have penetration testing, which is there for years. It's developed, and then you find potential vulnerabilities. Runtime application self-security testing, big bounty. Testing is there, mobile app security testing, interactive app security testing. And lots of tools are available, and some of them are DevOps friendly as of today, but others are also catching up because the expectation is slowly moving away. DevOps is going to become the way of working, or DevOps culture that is being pushed. We don't even call it as an agile culture nowadays. It's DevOps culture, tooling, process, and things. So DevSecOps will become the ways of working. So that's where few other applications that you're seeing are also catching up to be DevOps friendly. Choosing the right tool is not just important. more important is where you use them in your DevOps cycle. So if you look at development phase, when the code commit, CI, and the build is done, so you can use your SaaS there. Then pre-production, like when you're deploying in your test environments, like UAT environments, your DAST can come in. And similarly, once into production, you can do your performance, penetration testing, RASP, etc. So the right tools at the right phase of your DevOps journey or your SDLC journey is very important. So this is where you will have to take this to your project managers, to your directors in your organizations, or your CIs to understand where exactly those investments can be made and time given. So sample DevOps pipeline, so you have the source code, CI servers like checkmarks, Splunk. My team uses Splunk, JUnit for automation, then SonarQube for code coverage, reports comes out for every release that's happening. Then you have the publish, the deployment done, so we have OpenShift, things are moving to OpenShift. We are looking at AWS Cloud as an option. Slowly there is interest on the public as well, public clouds, because of the various security controls already in place. So banking organizations are also looking at it. Splunk is used effectively from a monitoring perspective. And these are all not just done by the security engineers themselves. It is the developers themselves in the teams have been trained over a period of time to take over those roles. They do the development, they do the build, they deploy it in using the pipelines, and they also try to monitor. So you get a full stack developer in the long run. That's what we are expecting. It's more of a generalist, I would say. Earlier we were 10 years back specialists, now we are again back in a circle. And a case study, this was an example what we have done in one of the leading UK-based banks. It was an engineering transformation enabled through DevSecOps. The teams were distributed across 1,600 members. Frequent slippages, critical vulnerabilities found at the end of the SDLCs. So we did provide with the solution of continuous security framework, which I was shown earlier. Security testing earlier in the life cycles, they were part of the discussions when the releases have been defined or the product backlog is being created. And developers were also made to perform the static code analysis. We integrated this security tools. Outcomes achieved, you can see it's more important is the cultural change within the organization, because then it was not just the security engineer's responsibility. Now it has, the team have understood that the release passes or the release fails. It is not because of any particular person. The entire team fails if the release does not happen. So that has been brought, the kind of a change has happened. We do have multiple releases. The last one happened last week, last Friday. Successful again across the functional, non-functional, security, all the aspects, not one INC or incident being raised in the last week, which is good. Standardized process helps in adoption. We do have standardized process, but we do give them flexibility to adapt to their own projects. So you do have at a standard, at an organization level, but you have kind of flexibilities. Similarly, vulnerabilities are tracked with closure, continuous improvement, lesson learns, retrospectives have been done. So this was for one of the leading UK banks. And currently we are trying to use that in the bank where I'm currently working in Switzerland as well. So that's one of the case studies. So what you can do next, please pick a DevOps team, take the development manager to the lunch, speak with them, start engaging with them, and start finding some of the projects that you can bring it to your DevOps pipeline. Integrate it. If you have a DevOps pipeline already, see how you can integrate the security tools and your performance tools into those kind of projects into the DevOps pipeline. And then within 6 months, you should be able to schedule to get an application security spread across your organizations. Not as an afterthought. It's not that sometimes you do have organizations that they will say, let's run the performance test after or security test later, after the product has been created. Then the rework is so huge that, and also you'll need to face uneasy questions with your business and business users. So try to get this across as a small step, and I'm sure it's going to be helpful in the long run for you. Conclusion, the path to success for security in DevSecOps lies in changing the underlying culture to embrace it, removing human stage gate steps from the process, and adding a continuous element to everything, continuous testing, continuous performance, continuous security. That is key to adopting this DevSecOps kind of transformation. I'd like to close with that, and any questions? Thank you. Hope I was on time.
Okay. Thank you. And let's have questions.
Yeah, actually, two questions. First is you mentioned in your case study, 1,600 members. Was this kind of like the security team? Was it all of the present DevOps people?
Yeah, the entire team. I'll just go back there. Yeah. So it was a large distributed team across. Your development team was spread across the countries, like you say, like UK, APAC, and everyone. It's not just the security team or the DevOps. The entire team responsible for delivering the product.
Okay, cool. And my second question is, like, you describe very, very nice and kind of like holistic frameworks from different perspectives. And at the end, you said that this is something you could do next week and 6 months. But for me, the question of kind of like covering all of this field probably takes way more than one person. So can you also tell how many people were related to this case study bank in actually implementing all of these components, picking the SaaS tools, doing outreach and everything? It's probably more than one guy.
It's more than, definitely more than. So we do have agile coaches, DevOps coaches identified who are evangelists, who work closely with the business stakeholders. So we have connects with the who's who in that organization who can make that change happen. Because earlier, few years back, it was mostly IT driven. So IT driven, no, it didn't work because the business were not in line. So we decided in this particular project and the one that I've shown, we interact with the directors level. Maybe it is N-3. We have a structure. N is the CEO. So we reach out at least to N-3s and 2s who are aware now because of the visibility to security, to the performance and the social media pressures. All the ends, right, whoever, they come with that kind of mindset that they need to focus on DevOps, they need to focus on DevSecOps. So DevSecOps culture is one of the critical thing in such a huge bank like us in the last 1 year. But we started this journey a little earlier, so it was much easier. But the new products and new projects or programs which are coming, we ensure that from the day one when the program is being structured, we ensure that the coaches are available who work with the stakeholders in the business and IT to bring this kind of a change. But it's going to be a journey. It took 6 months to a year for us to where we are today.
But how many people from your side? Just kind of like 5, 10, 100?
I would say at least some 15, 20 people as the driving team, evangelist team who needs to work. And we try to break that. Standardizing at a program level is fine, good in a paper. But the actual implementation should happen at a squad level because the squads are the one who are going to roll out. So we ensure that a Scrum Master is available who has a broader view, a mindset of change, who works closely with the coaches. And it's mostly the Scrum Masters who try to work closely within their own product owners and the business analyst to make this change happen. So every squad will have a Scrum Master who himself is an evangelist. And then obviously at a program level, we'll ensure that we have security evangelists, we have performance evangelists, DevOps evangelists, and they work closely with the leadership to make that happen. At least a 15-member team we have in the current project. And they drive change. It's a learning for us. We do fail. It's not that every failure is the next step for us. We try to correct it.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? I don't see any, therefore I want to ask a question. You mentioned on your last slides the penetration testing which happens in the last phases of production and testing cycle. Actually, do you do some kind of a restriction for penetration testing team, like you cannot do X?
Not really, because
when testing against production.
Okay, that's a tricky question. What you can do, what you cannot do. We do have separate teams available. I may not have that answer with you directly, restrictions, but I do agree that you cannot do everything in a bank, so it's very regulated. So that's the reason the more focus is on the left rather than to the right, right? So once it goes into production, it's mostly monitoring that we try to do. But controlled testing is what my team does. But the focus is more on shift left. Within the sprints, as much security aspects that can be brought in, we try to do those testing in the UAT phase itself. Maybe it's access rights, through aura permissions, who can access from which region. We do those restrictions earlier itself.
Okay. Then, thank you all.
Thank you.
Big applause to Praveen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.